DiStefano, everybody. On December 24th, 1941, something happened that would change our experience of Christmas forever. That night, the music of the holiday season, that ubiquitous soundtrack that underscores the days and weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas, began to irrevocably change when Bing Crosby introduced a new Irving Berlin song on his top-rated radio show, The Kraft Music Hall. The song was, of course, White Christmas. I'm David Armstrong, and tonight, with the help of some very talented friends and colleagues, it's my great pleasure to share with you the story behind that remarkable song and its enduring legacy. But if we're going to do that well, we're going to have to, in the words of another great songwriter, start at the very beginning. Carols were first sung thousands of years ago by pre-Christian people celebrating the winter solstice, the birth of the sun. Perhaps best known is the ancient Roman holiday of Saturnalia. During this wildly popular celebration, work and business came to a halt, and the Romans spent an entire week singing, dancing, feasting, drinking, and socializing. They decorated their houses with greenery and lights, and they gave presents to their children and to the poor. The final night coincided with the winter solstice, which according to the Julian calendar of the day, fell on December 25th. The word carol actually means song of praise and joy, and originally there were carols to celebrate all four seasons, but only the tradition of singing them in the winter has survived. Then, when the Christians co-opted and transformed these winter celebrations into Christmas, the birth of the Son of God, new carols began to emerge. In the year 129, a Roman bishop proclaimed that a song called Angel's Hymn should be performed at the Christmas celebrations in Rome. This is the first Christmas carol that we know about, although the music and lyrics have been lost. But you can imagine it would probably sound much like a Gregorian chant. Over the next 1,000 years, the observance of Christmas fell in and out of favor with the church several times. And by the dawn of the Middle Ages, celebrating Christmas was definitely on the kibosh. It stayed that way until 1223, when St. Francis of Assisi produced the first nativity play in Greccio, Italy. He was inspired by the biblical story of a poor infant Jesus' humble birth, and he was looking for a bold visual way of sharing it with his mostly illiterate followers. He apparently was something of a showman. He was a strong advocate for the use of singing, musical accompaniment, and drama in Christian worship. He staged his nativity play in an actual cave with costumed actors as Mary and Joseph and live animals. According to the reports, many people came from surrounding villages in lightly falling snow just before midnight on Christmas Eve to witness the first ever living nativity. I think that's a picture of the actual cave where he first staged. They don't hold the pageant there anymore, but you can go see it in Goreccio, Italy. According to his biographer, Saint Bonaventure, Saint Bonaventure wrote this about that first nativity play. The forests resounded with their voices, and that memorable night was made glorious by so many brilliant lights and sonorous psalms of praise. They got good reviews for that show. This new kind of theatrical performance soon spread across Europe to France, Spain, Germany, and England. And these new nativity plays also included new songs that for the first time had lyrics not in Latin, but in the languages of the local people. This nativity play celebration has continued right up to today. In every manger scene, the ones you have in your home were inspired by that. Community celebrations, church pageants, and even the living nativity that for 85 years has been the finale of the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. I wonder what St. Francis would think about that. On a side note, in order to stage that first nativity play, St. Francis had to convince a wealthy noble to provide the funding for it, and that's exactly how plays and musicals have been produced ever since. During the Renaissance, especially during the Tudor period, Christmas expanded into a major celebration involving 12 full days of continuous feasting and merrymaking. The festivities kicked off on Christmas Eve and climaxed on Twelfth Night. That Twelfth Night celebration took on a carnival-like wild party atmosphere with drunken bands of rabble-rousers roaming the streets, banging on doors, swigging wassail, and loudly singing their demands for figgy pudding and other holiday treats. The Christmas carols, The First Noel, and We Wish You a Merry Christmas, and this song all have their roots in that Tudor period.
Ding dong merrily on high, in heaven the bells are ringing.
Ding dong, verily the sky is riven with angels singing. Hosanna in excelsis.
In so below, 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 let steeple bells be swung.
And I-O, by priest and people sung in Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis, Gloria, Hosanna in excelsis.
It's my great pleasure to introduce you to Cayman Ilika and Eric Ankrim, two great stars of the Fifth Avenue Theater in Seattle and tonight of the Vashon Center for the Arts. They'll be back soon. Just a few years later, the Protestant Reformation in Europe and the Puritan Revolution in England put a huge damper on all of that and nearly ended the celebration of Christmas forever. In 1644, an act of Parliament banned Christmas entirely. The singing of carols was forbidden, and all pious Christians were ordered to eternally abominate observance of the holiday. As you might expect, when our Puritan forefathers so famously landed on Plymouth Rock, they brought that same negative view of Christmas with them. They correctly saw the Yuletide celebrations as a continuation of pagan rituals. So Christmas was banned in Boston, as so many things would be, and anyone discovered celebrating the holiday was heavily fined. Talk about a war on Christmas. Meanwhile, back in Europe, Christmas was a big point of contention among the Protestant reformers. Calvin and Knox had condemned the holiday, but Martin Luther was a big fan. He advocated for special church services, family celebrations that included feasting and gift-giving. It even seems that Luther himself wrote a few Christmas carols. As a result, Christmas continued to thrive in both Protestant and Catholic areas of Germany, and many Norse pagan traditions such as Yule logs, holiday markets, gift-giving, and decking the halls with evergreens were still part of the midwinter festivals then as they are today. Most significant of these, of course, was the Christmas tree. Some authors even claim that Luther himself originated the practice of putting lights, candles in his day, on the tree. Let's skip ahead now to Christmas Eve 1818, when another landmark event in the history of Christmas music took place. That was the night that the carol Silent Night was sung for the very first time. It happened in the small town of Obendorf, Austria, where Stille Nacht was first performed by its authors. They were the village priest Joseph Marr, who wrote the words, and its schoolmaster and church organist Franz Gruber, who composed the music. Legend has it that the song was presented that first time on that night with only a guitar as accompaniment. This is because the church organ had been heavily damaged in a flood, or maybe it was because mice had been chewing up the leather of the organ's bellows, or maybe none of that because it all might have been made up by a magazine writer in the 1930s. We actually don't know. But in any event, Stille Nacht soon spread across the world. In England, Queen Victoria's German husband, Prince Albert, would spark a major revival of the holiday when he put up a Christmas tree in Windsor Castle in 1848 and made it fashionable for everyone to bring a tree into their home. Meanwhile, here in America, huge waves of German immigrants escaping violence and political upheaval back at home were arriving on our shores every day. 6 million of them came between 1820 and 1900. They brought music, culture, beer gardens, and fun to America. And they spread their holiday traditions throughout the East Coast and the Midwest. It was during this Victorian era that many of the most beloved Christmas carols, Deck the Halls, Joy to the World, O Come All Ye Faithful, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, O Holy Night, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, all of them became popular and included a few that were written right here in America, such as We Three Kings, Away in a Manger, and of course, Jingle Bells. Go Tell It on the Mountain and other African-American Christmas-themed spirituals also emerged during this period, but they wouldn't become widely known until the 1960s. By the 1880s, the traditional canon of Christmas hymns and carols was complete, and for the next 60 years, it would remain virtually unchanged. These beloved songs were sung mostly in church, around the piano at home, or caroling door to door, and were only very rarely performed by professional entertainers. Of course, the advent of songwriting as a profession in the late 1800s, when that happened, the occasional Christmas theme song did emerge. The ragtime era produced a tune called The Reindeer Rag, and the 1920s delivered a song called Santa Claus, That's Me, but they were little more than novelty songs, and they received very limited exposure. It's now my pleasure to bring Cayman and Eric back to share one of those. At least at the time, it was less than popular. It was introduced by Broadway and film star Eddie Cantor on his radio show in November of 1934.
We just got back from a lovely trip along the Milky Way. We met with dear old Santa, and he sent us here to say, oh, you better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
He's making a list and checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town.
He sees you when you're sleeping.
He knows when you're awake.
He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town.
The kids in girl and boy land will have a jubilee.
They're gonna build a toyland town all around the Christmas tree. You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming, he keeps the toy shop humming. Santa Claus is coming to town. You better watch out.
It's a delightful song, of course, and we know it very well today. But following that first performance, it enjoyed only a brief blip of popularity and then was almost totally forgotten and went unheard of for more than a decade. This reinforced the mindset of most songwriters and record producers of this period. Why waste your time creating a song that people only want to hear a few weeks out of the year? All of that would change with White Christmas. Part of what makes White Christmas so remarkable is that it is first and foremost is a pop song. It's not a hymn. It's not an ages-old Christmas carol. It did not arise anonymously from folk culture. It was written for a 1940s movie musical, a commercial product designed to entertain and, with any luck, bring its songwriters some handsome royalties. White Christmas is not just the first Christmas-themed pop song to become a major hit. It is the hit of all hits, the top-selling and most recorded song of all time. The original Bing Crosby single has sold over 50 million records, and when you add in the other 500 or so recordings of the song, the sales go way over 100 million. Consider this, in 1955, which was the very first edition of the Guinness Book of World Records came out, White Christmas was credited there with being the world's best-selling single. And in the 2020 edition, it still holds that title. Every year brings new versions by artists that run the gamut from the Mormon Tabernacle Choir to Twisted Sister. Is there any other song that Kenny G, Peggy Lee, Liberace, and the Flaming Lips all have in common? Is there any other tune that Destiny's Child, the Three Tenors, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Perry Como, Garth Brooks, Aretha Franklin, Doris Day, and Kiss have all recorded? This quintessentially American song has captivated the world and has been published and recorded in hundreds of languages, including Danish, Czech, Greek, Hungarian, Portuguese, Spanish, Swahili, Japanese, and most appropriately, Yiddish. Appropriate because the man who wrote the song, words and music, was a Russian Jewish immigrant named Israel Bailin. He was born in 1888 in a shtetl near Russia's Siberian border, very much like the fictional town of Anatevka in Fiddler on the Roof. His father there was a Jewish cantor, and Israel Bailin's only memory of Russia was being held by his weeping mother as they watched their family's house being burnt down during a pogrom. Like Tevye and his family, the Bailins joined a mass Jewish exodus to the United States. When they arrived in New York, 5-year-old Izzy spoke only Yiddish with a smattering of Russian. He grew up on the dirty, crowded streets of the Lower East Side of New York. His father and mother struggled to make a living in any way that they could. His sisters wrapped cigars and worked in sweatshops. And around 1900, Izzy got a job selling newspapers. Just like those boys in the musical Newsies, Izzy was one of those boys. However, the few coins that he earned were not enough to pay his keep. And when his father died when he was 13 years old, Izzy didn't want to be a burden on his single mother, so he left home, or as he put it, went on the bum, joining the army of homeless boys that roamed the dangerous streets of New York, desperate to stay alive. It was probably, however, the musical influence of his father, he was a cantor, remember, that proved to be his salvation. Izzy sang for pennies on the sidewalk and in saloons along the Bowery. And by 1907, he found a job as a singing waiter. He didn't have much of a voice, but he had lots of energy and loads of chutzpah. His life changed when a rival saloon down the block began pulling in crowds with a new Italian novelty song, which had been written by that saloon's pianist and bouncer. So Izzy's boss of this saloon, pictured right here, ordered him and their pianist to write a song that would bring the customers back to their saloon. They came up with a little ditty called Marie from Sunny Italy.
My sweet Marie from sunny Italy, oh how I do love you. Say that you'll love me too. Forevermore I will be true. Just say the word and I will marry you, and then you'll surely be my sweet Marie from sunny Italy.
We know it's pretty terrible. You were fine, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Very good. But somehow it got published, and on the title page, our boy was credited not as Israel Baleen, but as I. Berlin. This new name was carefully chosen, close to his own, but with a formal Teutonic ring to it, which was very smart because the music business was run almost entirely by Germans. Sheet music was big business in those days. Remember, this is before radio and television, and sound recording is still in its infancy. So the only way songs could be sold was in sheet music form. Almost everybody had a piano in their home and someone who could play it reasonably well. And if you wanted to hear music, in the evening the family would gather around and sing the latest hits. You had to make the music yourself. The music publishing offices were all located on one block of New York City, which became known as Tin Pan Alley. This was because the clatter and racket of so many pianos in so many offices, all on top of each other and all being played at once, sounded to people passing on the street like nothing more than the cacophonous banging on tin cans. The German Jews who ran the industry were mostly first and second generation immigrants, and who'd been shut out of most other respectable lines of trade. But music publishing, and really all of show business, provided a rare opportunity for immigrants and African Americans to get out of the ghetto. Marie was enough of a sensation that Berlin made the decision to pursue songwriting full-time, all by himself, both lyrics and music, which took a lot more chutzpah considering he couldn't read or write a note of music, and he could only play the piano in one key. He churned out dozens of songs during this period, and he had some success. Then in 1911, he wrote a snappy, syncopated march, fitted it out with lyrics, and sold it to a producer who plugged it into his new Broadway show, which quickly flopped. But somehow the tune found its way to Al Jolson, the biggest star of the era, who made it a hit. It sold 500,000 copies, then 1 million more, then 2 million, and with this one song, Irving Berlin became a songwriting superstar.
Oh my honey, better hurry and let's meander. Ain't you going to the leader man, ragged meter man? Oh my honey, let me take you to Alexander's grandstand brass band. Ain't you coming along? Come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band. Come on in here, it's the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before, so natural that you wanna go to war. That's just the bestest band, what am? Honey lamb, come on along, let me take you by the hand. Up to the man, who's the leader of the band. And if you care to hear that Swanee River played in the ragtime, come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band. Ain't you coming along?
Cayman Ilika, everybody. Isn't it amazing to hear a song that's 100 years old and that's fresh, and that just feels so like it could have just been written yesterday? Not in its style, but just in its exuberance. Irving Berlin would go on to write the scores for 25 Broadway musicals and dozens of films, including more than 1,000 songs, of which at least 100 have become standards. Those songs that have stayed alive in our culture, songs that you can't go to Starbucks without hearing. I could spend all night talking about Irving Berlin, and maybe someday I'll come back and do just that. But right now, let's jump to 1933, when Berlin is at the height of his Broadway career, and he wrote a unique Broadway musical review called As Thousands Cheer. What he did with the show is he used the format of a daily newspaper as its organizing theme. Every scene and song in the show was inspired by sections or articles in the newspaper. Headlines would appear projected overhead on a screen, one of the very first uses of projections in a Broadway show, or really in any aspect. And a musical number or a comedy sketch would take the stage inspired by the headline above. For example, one of the headlines was "Heat Wave Hits New York." And in response, the great star Ethel Waters belted out Berlin's now classic song, "Heat Wave." You know, we're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. The temperature's rising, it isn't surprising, she certainly can. The show's first act finale, brought to life the illustrated Sunday magazine supplement, also known as the rotogravure. The entire cast, dressed to the nines and strolling down a nostalgic replica of old Fifth Avenue, introduced the song "Easter Parade." This is important because it was the popularity of this song that gave Berlin the idea for Holiday Inn. It seems his first thought was to create another big Broadway review, this time with sketches and songs all themed around the holidays throughout the year. And he left some handwritten notes behind for this show that indicate that he was already thinking that the first act would end with a song that hadn't been written yet called "White Christmas." But the show never got made, and the concept seemed to be completely forgotten until 8 years later, when he pitched the idea to Paramount Pictures for a movie called Holiday Inn. The idea was that this plot would be about a star singer who retires to the country to run a hotel that's only open on holidays. Doesn't sound like a very good business plan to me, but made for a good movie. Berlin planned to bring back Easter Parade and write new songs for all of the other holidays. Paramount jumped on the idea and assigned their biggest star, Bing Crosby, and got Fred Astaire to join him in the picture. One of the key scenes in the movie would, of course, have to be the Christmas scene. If you're going to do all the holidays, you can't leave out probably the biggest holiday of the year, Christmas. And there had to be a song for it. Now, there are several versions of the story of how, when, and where the song got composed. Berlin himself told very different versions of it in various interviews over the years. Seems like he just made things up as the fancy struck him. But this version seems to be the most likely, as it comes from notes that were taken by his longtime musical assistant, Helmi Kresna. Remember, Berlin had no musical training, so he always had to dictate his songs to someone who could write them down, an amanuensis, if you will. So one Monday morning in 1940, Berlin rushed into his New York office, flushed with excitement, and shouted, "Helmi, grab your pen and take this down quick. Not only is this the best song I ever wrote, it's the best song anybody ever wrote." He and Helmi then worked meticulously to get the melody, the chords, and the accompaniment down on paper exactly the way Berlin heard it in his head. This seems to be the perfect time to bring out onto the stage my longtime friend and colleague, Albert Evans, who has a better understanding of how songs are put together than pretty much anybody I've ever met. Please welcome Albert Evans. So, Albert, if we flash forward 2 years, to be exact, Holiday Inn has had its premiere at the Paramount Theater in New York, and Berlin is waiting excitedly for the overnight reviews to come out. However, to his shock and great dismay, none of the critics even mention the greatest song anybody ever wrote.
How could they? Well, that could be because the movie actually opened in the middle of August during a sweltering heat wave. He should have introduced Heat Wave then.
Guess that we weren't in the Christmas spirit at that point.
People weren't, what? What is this song?
But Berlin seemed undeterred. He kept his faith in that song.
Yeah, but his publishing company really didn't. He had a vast, well, not vast, but he had a large staff who were in charge of publicity and promoting the songs. And they were betting that the Valentine's Day song, which was called Be Careful It's My Heart, a beautiful song.
Very pretty.
They thought that would be the film's standout hit. They were so wrong.
They were wrong, and Berlin was right. Within a few weeks, White Christmas was selling like a hit. Sheet music stores couldn't keep it in stock. Bing Crosby's record was flying off the shelves. Berlin's London office cabled back that it was going to be the biggest song they'd ever handled. And its appeal even transcended racial barriers because Bing Crosby's record became the very first by a white artist to chart on Billboard's Harlem Hit Parade. By December, Bing Crosby, his recording was the #1 song of the year and well on its way to, as we've heard, become the best-selling song of all time. And Albert, I've asked you here tonight to answer one question and one question only.
Uh-oh.
Why? Why is White Christmas the best-selling song of all time?
Well, I've actually thought about this a lot because I love the song White Christmas. But I feel that sometimes the song can be so familiar, so much a part of our lives that we really don't hear it anymore. It's difficult to actually get a first impression when you've heard it 1,000 times. So I want to take a few minutes to sort of look under the hood and see what makes it run. And it might be helpful to look at the music and the lyrics separately. So first the lyric. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas just like the ones I used to know. Well, immediately we're in two worlds, the present and the past. I'm dreaming. How much more evocative that is than I'm thinking or I'm hoping for a white Christmas. You hope for something in the future. But you can dream of something that is lost, something in the past. And the singer seems to be daydreaming in a somewhat melancholy reverie, remembering something forever gone, just like the ones I used to know, childhood, family, security. Hanging on Berlin's office wall was a portrait of Stephen Foster, the mid-19th century songwriter, who specialized in heart-tugging songs about the old home, like Old Folks at Home, My Old Kentucky Home, and many, many more. And Foster's narrators tend to wander up and down the whole creation, sad and weary, looking for their lost childhood, where the young folks roll on the little cabin floor, all merry, all happy, and bright. Until, of course, hard times come a-knocking on the door. Foster's compositions led to a whole genre of nostalgic home songs, a genre that still flourished when Berlin was beginning his own songwriting career, and he wrote a share of them. He wrote songs like Homesick, I Want to Go Back to Michigan, When the Midnight Choo-Choo Leaves for Alabama. He even wrote a song called The Call of the South, which is designed to be sung in counterpoint with Old Folks at Home. So let's continue with the White Christmas lyric. After setting this mood of wistful reverie, Berlin paints the scene a bit more vividly, where the treetops glisten. This is our first indication that we're probably in the country. This doesn't sound like a city snow scene. And children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. And these few images, snowy treetops, children, sleigh bells, these are surprisingly the only specifics about this dream, and yet they conjure up a whole sort of Currier and Ives scene. A cozy, warm homestead nestled in a snowy landscape. The hush that falls on the world with a fresh snowfall. Children peering out the ice-covered window, a prancing horse pulling an old-fashioned sleigh, and the only sound, the jingling of sleigh bells. It's a New England winter, probably, where the gloss of memory transforms what it must have been the actual very harsh reality into a cherished portrait of family happiness. And of course, children and sleigh bells also prompt thoughts of Santa and his reindeer, presents under the tree, just various Christmas morning. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I write. So suddenly, we're back in the present. Our narrator is now a grown-up. He's sending cards, he or she, to reach out to now distant family and friends, separated by time and distance, in an attempt to somehow recreate that lost family circle, the old folks at home. Now remember Stephen Foster's young folks rolling on the cabin floor, all merry, all happy and bright? Well, they reappear now in an almost subliminal sort of echo. May your days be merry and bright. Well, Foster's merry now links with the familiar greeting Merry Christmas, and the hoped-for bright days ahead surely are a reference to a wish for a Happy New Year. And the final line is a true stroke of genius. And may all your Christmases be white. May the holidays rekindle the warmth, the wonder, the love, and safety of a fondly remembered childhood Christmas. It's a masterful lyric. Simple, everyday words, mostly of 1 and 2 syllables, spare and poetic, with just enough information to allow us to add our own memories to this scene. Now, Berlin seems to have invented the phrase White Christmas, which is now, at least in the snowy states, a sort of weather report cliche. Will it be a white Christmas? With luck, we'll have a white Christmas this year. Or hopes for a white Christmas were dashed when blah, blah, blah. But even in places where it seldom, if ever, snows, a white Christmas has come to mean an ideal holiday. And palm trees and tropical plants are now festooned with artificial snow and plastic icicles. So let's turn our attention now to the music. Here's the opening phrase of White Christmas. The melody moves stepwise. There are no sudden jumps, no tricky leaps in the tune. In fact, the melody moves chromatically. Let me explain that. Instead of moving up and down the major scale, which is the usual practice in pop songwriting, keep it simple, Berlin moves by the smallest possible amount, by half steps. A less daring writer might have written it like this. But Berlin induces a mood of cautious reverie with his chromatics, sort of curling like a wisp of smoke. And notice how the melody lifts so beautifully on the word Christmas. And then, like the sun breaking through the clouds, the chromatics give way to familiar scale tones in this beautiful arch. So with this, we've shifted from the uneasy chromatic present into the warm, comforting past. And we've also, importantly, we have reached the highest note that we'll ever have to sing in the whole song. So baritones and altos can relax. And now comes the very first melodic leap. Uh-oh, how are we gonna do that? How do we know what note we're gonna go to? Because every note until now has been right next door to its neighbor. But Berlin makes it easy on us. He lets us drop to the tonic note, which is the home bass in the key, the easiest pitch to find. So we've been da 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 da, where da da, so easy, where the treetops glisten. And now the melody becomes more adventurous, leaving its stepwise path to introduce a couple of evocative and highly unexpected tones. The first is on glisten, and it's in the harmony. Where the treetops glisten. Now this sounds lovely, but if you take away all but these 2 notes, there's this really kind of nasty dissonance in there, but it's softened by the chord. Still there's that slight dissonance, and I think somehow that makes the chord shine. It just is. And then Berlin repeats the phrase, but now in a slightly warmer tone. But still there's that dissonant right in the middle there. And children listen, it's lower, it's warmer, it's more hushed, so that the children can hear. They can hear those sleigh bells. There's not a lot of noise in whatever household this is. And now after that slight trickiness, Berlin takes pity on the amateur singer and reverts to easy stepwise motion. To hear sleigh bells in the snow. We are now halfway through the song. Now, Berlin now repeats the melody we've just heard, but changing only the very last few notes. So we do, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and at that point, every note has been exactly the same as in the first half. But now it's time for a big finish. So instead of dropping down as in, and children listen, we go up to this same note, but an octave higher. Days be merry and bright. Now that's the payoff. It's the money note. It's the one that you close your eyes and hold. Yet it seems strangely easy because it's not a stretch at all. The trick is this: we've actually sung higher in the song in just like the ones I used to know, and with every Christmas card I write. So, days be merry and bright is a step lower than the highest note we've sung. So at this point it feels like a piece of cake. Now, there's a bit of musical sleight of hand here, and it's not in the melody, but it's in the harmony. As we hold bright, our joyful, confident, everything is going to be okay note, the underlying harmony suddenly shifts to a minor chord. While we're singing bright, bright, it introduces a grown-up shadow of concern. Maybe we're not out of the woods yet. Listen to that one more time. May your days be merry and bright. It's so happy, but uh-oh. And then for the final lines, instead of climbing up to a big throat-busting climax like the Star-Spangled Banner, Berlin sort of eases us down to our lower register. And may all your Christmases, and that note, masses, is the lowest in the whole song. This is a very unusual way to end a song. The vocal range of White Christmas is just over an octave. And so anyone, even me, can find a comfortable key and sort of sing like Bing. David?
Albert Evans, everybody.
Thank you.
Bing Crosby's radio debut of that song took place just 17 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor. And by the time the movie premiered 8 months later, America was deep into its first year of involvement in World War II, with no end in sight. Those little touches of melancholy and worry that Albert just described made White Christmas an emotional blockbuster, both for the troops overseas and those anxiously awaiting their return back home. It became a Why We Fight song, a song that was a potent reminder of home, family, and country. Now that you've heard Albert so brilliantly break the song apart, let's welcome Eric Ankrim back to the stage to put it all back together.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white. Where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white.
1 year following the triumph of White Christmas, Billboard magazine reported that while in the past songwriters had avoided laboring over holiday songs because experience had convinced them that the tunes were generally played on that day alone and cleared off the retail counters the day after, it was now clear, after White Christmas, that Christmas songs can become modern classics and that might return year after year just like traditional carols. And indeed, the holiday season of 1943, 1 year after White Christmas, had its own holiday hit, I'll Be Home for Christmas. It was written by veteran songwriters Kim Gannon and Walter Kent, who clearly designed it as a knockoff of White Christmas. To replicate the success, they even got Bing Crosby and the same orchestra to record it. And while the music has its own charm, the lyric is clearly very reminiscent of Berlin's. The song is written in the voice of what must have seemed at the time like that of a serviceman overseas writing a letter. He promises that Christmas Eve will find him back home with snow and mistletoe where the love light beams. He'll be home for Christmas, if only in his dreams. In other words, he's also dreaming of a white Christmas. However, with the war still raging, this song struck an emotional melancholy chord and spent 15 weeks on the pop charts, rising as high as number 3. And it's since become another holiday standard, and we have to give Bing Crosby a great deal of the credit for that success. Harry Lillis Crosby, Jr. was born in 1903, just a few miles from where we are tonight at 112 J Street in Tacoma. The house that was built by his father is still there, but just 3 years later, when he was 3 years old, the family moved to Spokane, where his father built another house on Sharp Avenue. Today, that house is on the campus of Gonzaga University and serves as the Bing Crosby House Museum, housing more than 200 artifacts about Bing's life and career. There are several versions of how Harry Jr. got the nickname Bing, but they're not very interesting, so we're not going to go into them tonight. But what is interesting, I think, is that the nickname stuck, and from grade school on, everyone called him Bing. Friends, family, parents, and even teachers. He always loved music, but he really got the show business bug during high school when he took a summer job as a prop boy at the Spokane's largest theater, the Auditorium, which was torn down in 1934. There he got to study up close many of the top stars of the day, especially Al Jolson, who we heard about earlier. He was touring in his Broadway musical, Robinson Crusoe Jr. Bing would later say, "I hung on every word and watched every move he made. To me, he was the greatest entertainer that ever lived." Now, at 14, Bing knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to be in the show business. And he became a major force immediately in both the Glee Club and the Drama Club at Gonzaga High School, and even more so when he went to college and was involved in the choirs, the plays, and the musical performances at Gonzaga University. In 1924, he bought a bass drum by mail order, and this got him invited to be in the band of a high school student named Al Rinker, who was 5 years younger than Crosby. Rinker was the brother of soon-to-be jazz great Mildred Bailey, and both of them were Native American, and they grew up on the Coeur d'Alene Reservation. The band had some success, and Bing and Al also formed a duo. The act was called Two Boys and a Piano, and they performed between the movies at Spokane's Clemmer Theater, which is still there and today is called the Bing Crosby Theater. This was Crosby's first job as a professional singer, and the gig lasted 5 months and gave the boys enough money and enough, courage and confidence about their talents for that Bing to drop out of college and take off with Al for Hollywood. After a very brief period of struggle, they were invited to join Paul Whiteman and his orchestra, the biggest, most famous band in show business at that point. And they hooked up with a songwriter named Harry Barris to form a trio called the Rhythm Boys. This was very successful, but then in 1931, Bing broke off on a solo career, and the rest, as they say, is history. His emerging stardom coincided with the invention of the microphone. He's one of the first singers to understand what a microphone could do for you. And he became a pioneer, actually, of every new technology that was involved in entertainment in the 20th century. Phonograph records, radio, and television. He was among the first in each of those mediums. As a singer, he made more studio recordings than any act in history. 396 records of his made the pop charts. No one else even comes close. Sinatra had 209, Elvis 149, and the Beatles 68. And 38 of those recordings became #1 hits. Again, nobody else is close. The runners-up are the Beatles at 24 and Elvis at 18. In the movies, he appeared in 110 films and was the #1 box office star in America for 5 consecutive years in a row during the 1940s, and was among the top 10 box office stars in 15 years. In 1944, he received an Academy Award as Best Actor for his performance in Going My Way. He was a major radio star longer than anybody else, with his own radio show from 1934 to 1954, when he made the jump to television with equal and long-lasting success. Among his hundreds of television performances, perhaps best remembered are his 17 Christmas specials. His final appearance on television was in 1977 on a show called Bing Crosby's Merry Old Christmas. That's where he sang The Little Drummer Boy with David Bowie and closed the show singing White Christmas one final time. He died while playing golf just a few weeks after the show was taped, and it was aired in his memory. During his unprecedented 50-year career, he was without a doubt one of the most popular entertainers of all time. But I keep getting ahead of myself. We're going to jump back to 1944. The war is still raging, and another hit movie introduces a third enduring Christmas song. And although it was created for a story set in 1903, it also perfectly captured the bittersweet zeitgeist of that time. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas was introduced by Judy Garland in the nostalgic film Meet Me in St. Louis, in that unforgettable scene where she desperately tries to cheer up her despondent little sister, Margaret O'Brien. It's a perfect movie moment. But 14 years later, in 1957, Frank Sinatra told the two songwriters of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, Hugh Martin and Ralph Blaine, that they had to rewrite the lyrics. He told them his new album was going to be called A Jolly Christmas, and their original lyrics were just too depressing. Well, when Sinatra tells you to do something, you do it. And those revised lyrics are the ones you hear most of the time in most every recording that's been made since Sinatra's. But tonight, I've asked Cayman to sing for us the original lyrics, the ones that connected so strongly with listeners in December 1944 when the Battle of the Bulge was underway.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Someday soon we all will be together, if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Someday soon we all will be together, if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
Well, the song was right. Next year, the troubles were out of sight. The war was over. And post-war optimism ruled the day. And in its wake followed a series of holiday-themed Christmas movies that are still favorites. Christmas in Connecticut in 1945, It's a Wonderful Life in 1946, Miracle on 34th Street in 47, and jumping to 1955, a hit movie entitled Irving Berlin's White Christmas, starring Bing Crosby, Rosemary Clooney, Danny Kaye, and my favorite dancer, Vera Ellen. And the post-war baby boom that came after the war saw and coincided with the rise of television and brought us decades of animated specials and star-studded Christmas spectaculars. Most significantly, however, for our purposes, in the wake of White Christmas, every holiday season from 1945 to 1970 would introduce a brand new Christmas pop song that would capture the hearts of America and join the pop canon of holiday hits. Even the advent of rock and roll couldn't slow this down. They just joined in and brought new pop Christmas hits, and some of the old standards brought back in with backbeats and rock rhythms. Albert's put together an amazing medley of that incredible 15-year period, and it gives us great pleasure to present to you our holiday cavalcade of song.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow.
Let it snow.
We'll have chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos.
Here comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane.
Dear Santa, all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth, so I can wish you Merry Christmas.
Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring-ting-tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather.
It's lovely weather.
It's lovely weather.
It's lovely weather.
It's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Silver bells.
The corner Santa Claus.
Silver bells.
Is busy now because
soon it will be Christmas Day. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. There's a tree in the Grand Hotel, one in the park as well.
The sturdy kind that doesn't mind the snow.
Thumpity thump thump, thumpity thump thump, look at Frosty go.
Oh, rum pum pum rum pum pum come. They told me rum pum pum pum, our newborn king to see rum pum pum pum.
Yes, but I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath his beard so snowy white.
Santa baby, just slip a sable under the tree for me. Been an awful good girl, Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney.
'Cause there's no place like home for the holidays,
no matter how far away you roam.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you. You'll be doing all right with your Christmas of wine. Thank you very much. But I'll have a blue Christmas.
Jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring.
Rocking around the Christmas tree, and we'll do some caroling.
Okay, you chipmunks, ready to sing your song?
I say we are.
Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay. Christmas, Christmas time is near. Time for toys and time for cheer. Want a plane that moves the loop.
Me, I want a hula hoop.
Do you actually want a hula hoop?
Well, actually, there's these Prada shoes that are covered in jewels.
Hey, man.
I'm like really obsessed with
Is that the spirit of Christmas? Christmas is about loving people, family, emotional value, not material goods. Said the night wind to the little lamb.
Prada, Prada,
No, that is not what the night wind said to the lamb. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Oh, Merry Christmas, Saint
Christmas comes
Nick.
this time each year.
It's the little Saint Nick.
Little Saint Nick.
Ooh, it's the little Saint Nick. Run, run, Rudolph. Christmas.
Snow's coming down.
Christmas.
I'm watching it fall.
Christmas.
Lots of people around.
Christmas.
Baby, please come home.
Have a holly jolly
If there was a way,
Have a holly jolly
I'd hold
Christmas.
back these tears.
Let's have a holly
But
jolly
it's Christmas
Christmas.
Day.
I want a holly
Please,
jolly, a
please,
holly
please.
jolly, a
Why
holly
aren't you
jolly.
singing?
Just something happy. That song is so sad. How about this one? Christmas time is here. Happiness and cheer. Fun for all the children call their favorite time of year. Christmas bells, those Christmas bells ring up through the land, asking peace of all the world and goodwill to man.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. Your soul is an appalling dung heap, overflowing with the most disgraceful assortment of rubbish imaginable, mangled up in...
Cayman, you are frightening them.
Sorry, it's just a really emotional time of year. There's just so much to do.
Totally get it. Just play something.
Feliz Navidad.
That's much better. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. You better be good for goodness sake.
You better be good for goodness sake.
Oh, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Oh, yeah. Santa Claus is coming to town. Yes, he is. Santa Claus is coming to town. One more time. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Good night.
Eric Ankrim, Cayman Ilika. One of my personal favorite things about the holiday season is that for a few weeks each year, the sounds of the big band era and the Great American Songbook reemerge, and the great singers like Ella Fitzgerald, Nat King Cole, Brenda Lee, Sinatra, and Crosby all return to the airwaves. And the current pop stars of the day also try their hand at singing and often swinging the great Christmas classics, most of which were written before they or even their grandparents were born. One of the best and most ubiquitous of these songs was also written by Irving Berlin. He composed it back in the 1930s, way before White Christmas, and he didn't really intend it to be a holiday song, but nonetheless, it has become a beloved part of the annual hit parade. Please welcome Cayman back to the stage with Irving Berlin's other big holiday hits.
The snow is snowing, the wind is blowing, but I can weather the storm. What do I care how much it may storm? I've got my love to keep me warm. I can't remember a worse December. Just watch those icicles form. What do I care if icicles form? I've got my love to keep me warm. Off with my overcoat, off with my glove. I need no overcoat, I'm burning with love. My heart's on fire, the flame grows higher, so I will weather the storm. What do I care how much it may storm? I've got my love to keep me warm. Off with my overcoat, off with my glove. I need no overcoat, I'm burning with love. With love, burning with love. My heart's on fire, the flame grows higher, so I will weather the storm. What do I care how much love to keep me warm.
Nearly every major singing star over the past 70 years has recorded a holiday album. From Andy Williams, Tony Bennett, and Johnny Mathis, to Elvis, the Carpenters, and Barbra Streisand, on to Dolly Parton, Gloria Estefan, Whitney Houston, and Mariah Carey. This year alone, you can hear new Christmas albums from John Legend, Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Los Lobos, Idina Menzel, the third holiday album from the band Chicago, and Christmas at Downton Abbey. Not surprisingly, almost all of them include the song White Christmas. Now that you know the song inside and out, this evening would not be complete without inviting all of you to join all of us in singing the world's favorite song.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow.